So we decided to upgrade to a houseboat from an RV. Check it out. Ah, just kidding. We're just backed up to a river.
Welcome back. We just spent a week in the Redwood National and State Parks, and we're gonna cover everything that we did while we were there. So we stayed at the Golden Bear RV Park in Klamath, which was right on the Klamath River, and I think it was probably one of my favorite campgrounds that we've stayed at so far.
Yeah, I thought it was gorgeous. We were backed right up along the river, which flows right into the ocean, so basically had waterfront property. It was nice to be able to just lift this back shade here and just look right out at the water.
We did kind of feel like we were on a houseboat because you'd open the shade and you didn't see any land and it was just the water flowing by, so that was really cool. Beautiful sunrises, sunsets, and weather there was a little weird. It was chilly but windy, and I think it was just like the wind coming in from the ocean made it like very different throughout the day. They did have laundry on site. It was very inexpensive. We did a lot of laundry because we knew we wouldn't have laundry for 2 weeks after that. I think it was only like $2 for a washer load and $1.75 or something for a dryer. They have a little rec room which we just popped our head into, and the public bathrooms, and that's kind of it for amenities. It was just really one building and then the office building, which is also a small little log cabin style.
One thing to keep in mind though for this campground is if you are in one of the sites that do back up against the river, the sites are set up for pull in. So like if you had a mobile home and you drove right in, then everything would be on the right side. But if you're backing into those sites, all your hookups are actually on the other side of your camper or your rig. So just make sure you have, longer sewer hose, longer water hose, even like a long enough sewer hose support. So I think we had about 20 feet for sewer hose, and it was like just the right length. If we were off by like another 2 feet, no bueno.
Yeah.
But yeah, water hose, we had a 35-foot water hose, plenty long enough. So just keep that in mind if you are looking for one of the waterfront sites.
And maybe it was just our site, but it seemed like it was a little uphill, so that was kind of difficult because things weren't really flowing out. Kind of needed to help it along, but we handled that towards the end of our stay. So
yeah, and I think again, if you pull in with like a really long motorhome, I think their utilities are more in the back. So the idea would have been, if it is a pull in, everything's going to start to flow down towards where everything's dumping. But in our case, our utilities are in the back of our camper. But if our camper's turned around, then everything's already downhill. Yeah. So we did have to go over and like lift it up a little bit. Wasn't fun, but got it done.
It's a pretty small campground. There weren't that many sites there. It's really just 3 rows, I think, like up on the water, a middle row, and then a row towards the road. It is on the main road that goes through there, which is a little busy, but I didn't think road noise was that bad at all.
I think they had some shrubbery between the road and their property, so I think that helped sort of block some of that sound.
Basically no one there. We only had a couple neighbors.
There might have been like 8 to 10 campers total.
We were warned by one guy there to secure bikes because they have had bikes stolen there before. If you have regular bikes, e-bikes, be sure to lock them up. We kept ours on the back of our camper against the water, so you couldn't really see them.
So we typically keep ours on our rack connected to the camper, and then we have a bike lock that locks everything together, and we keep it covered just to keep any prying eyes off of seeing what's out there for grabs per se. So definitely recommend that. If you got any valuables, keep it covered, keep it hidden, keep it locked.
But location was really nice. We weren't far from Prairie Creek State Park and the Redwood National Forest, so it was like a 15 to 20 minute drive south to get into the heart of it all. So would highly recommend staying there if you're going to spend, a week exploring the Redwoods.
Definitely.
Great base camp. So our first day exploring, we did Prairie Creek, and we did the Carl Knapp and Foothills Trail Loop. So basically you start there at the visitor center, you kind of follow along the road but in the woods, you cross over the road, and then you go to Big Tree, which is like
the big one.
24 feet in diameter. It's huge.
Yeah.
And then you keep going south. We ended up off trail on a different trail. And then you cross back over the road to the visitor center. But it's a nice little loop, and there's 2 tree tunnels that you walk through, which is cool.
So also from the Prairie Creek State Park, you can park right there. It's on the Newton B. Drury Scenic Parkway.
Yeah.
So that Parkway is just a road that kind of runs through that area, and we actually brought our e-bikes. We took them along that Scenic Parkway, and it was absolutely gorgeous being able to ride the e-bikes along that road. It wasn't too busy, but you're able to pull right up alongside some of these massive trees and
It's really beautiful.
just park your tiny little bike next to it and just look up and just be totally amazed at how big these trees actually are over in the Redwood National Forest.
I think it's 9 or 10 miles one way. Most people just do it as a scenic drive, but it's really nice to bicycle it, in my opinion. I think it was one of my like top moments that we've been on the road so far. It was so beautiful. Especially with like being on the coast, the fog coming through, and it was just kind of like misty with the sun rays and stuff. It was really neat.
Definitely gave some E.T. vibes,
Yeah.
which we then looked up and found out E.T. was actually
Filmed in the Redwoods.
filmed in the area.
I think it's like October through April. I think it's the first Saturday or the first weekend of the month. They actually close that whole road for people to run on, bike on. We didn't time that with that, but we biked on it while there were cars there, and it was still fine, and it was well worth it.
So another day that week, we decided to go check out Fern Canyon. The ride out there was a little rough,
Interesting.
to say the least. I think it was close to maybe a half hour of dirt roads that are not very well maintained.
Lots of potholes.
Yeah, a lot of potholes, a lot of area where there was some severe erosion at times. We took the dually through there. It is a narrow road, but there's plenty of space for you to either pull aside or back up just a little bit and let another car come through. So we didn't have any issues there, but the road definitely beat up the truck a little bit. Once you also got into, I think it was a campground that this is located in.
Yeah, there's a small campground there.
So you have to go through that sort of like check-in booth, and once you get there, it's, you know, maybe another 10 minutes down the road, but they have a stream that actually crosses the road. The road basically became the stream that you had to cross. It seemed to be fine. It looked a little deeper than I would have been comfortable with driving a small car through, but we saw plenty of people driving their cars through. Yeah, just be mindful.
We saw lots of elk. I think they're Roosevelt elk, just everywhere on the side of the road. They, you know, be careful getting out of the car. Don't approach them too closely. We just admired them from the car, but they're really neat to see, and there was just a huge herd of them. And I'd been to Fern Canyon in 2018, and I also saw them in that same spot as well. So I think it's pretty common that you see them in that area. So be sure to have your camera ready.
Yeah, so what actually is Fern Canyon? We haven't told them yet.
So it's really beautiful. It's like 50-foot or taller fern walls. And you're walking up a creek, so you want to make sure that you have either sandals or waterproof footwear that's a little taller. We had taller boots, and we still got water in our boots. But several movies have been filmed there. I think Jurassic Park was filmed there. It's just super gorgeous, and there's a loop that you can do, so you kind of leave the parking lot, and then you go up the creek and through the canyon, and then you can like loop back down. But we decided to just go to the top of the canyon where it started to like go out, and then we just came back through because it's just really pretty, and it's worth seeing from both angles. So super neat. Lots of ferns. This time of year, I think the ferns aren't totally grown back, so there are quite a few dead ones, but it's still really pretty.
Time of day that we went, it was definitely a weekday. I think we probably got there around, I don't know, 2:30, 3 o'clock. And it wasn't all that busy.
Yeah,
there was, you know, maybe 15, 20 cars in the parking lot. There was plenty of opportunities for us to look up or down the canyon and have nobody within view. So
after we did Fern Canyon, on the way out, we just took a little detour and went up to Lady Bird Johnson Grove. And that one is really beautiful as well. I think the time of day that we hit that one made it like that much more beautiful. With the afternoon sun rays kind of coming through all these huge redwoods. And
lighting up the mist.
Yeah, it was so nice. And that one has some really big ones on the trail. I think it's like just over a mile loop.
So another day we decided to go back to the Prairie Creek area because around there you go through this little campground, and they have a bunch of trails behind it. And we thought, hey, let's go take out the e-bikes and do some mountain biking. CeLynn had found that some of the trails were single track. Were they single track? Yeah, they were definitely overgrown, not very well maintained.
Lots of trees down.
Yeah, tons of trees that were down. So you're having to lift your bike over trees that are like yay big.
It was rough.
And trying to lift a 80-pound e-bike over them wasn't all that fun. It wasn't quite what we expected, but it was sure an adventure.
Yeah. The last like quarter mile of the trail was really nice.
Yes.
And then
The
it
last
popped
quarter
out on
mile
this
was
dirt
beautiful.
road, and we were like, wow, that was really nice. But the rest of that was like, there was a point where we got to this blowdown that was so big that we were like, do we just turn around or do we keep going? But we were already like over halfway through, so we kept going.
But if you stick to the like dirt roads that they call, they keep them open for fire trucks and stuff basically. So those ones are wide dirt roads that are maintained, don't have stuff in the way. So if you are going to do any mountain biking and you're not a hardcore mountain biker, then I would suggest sticking to those fire roads.
Yeah.
Because they are
Those are nice.
maintained. We didn't see a soul on them, not a vehicle, and those are really pretty.
Yeah. If you are using e-bikes, just be sure to look on the National Park website ahead of time. They do have a whole trail map, and they tell you what trails e-bikes are allowed on and what ones they're not allowed on.
Probably as well as what class e-bikes are allowed.
Yeah,
I think it's really just class 1 and 2.
I believe so. But there's really only a couple trails that don't allow e-bikes. So we thought going into it, it would be a really good spot to use them a lot. But we learned that, roads are probably best there. But
Yeah.
I had made the mistake, and we realized at Fern Canyon that I thought I booked our reservation through Sunday, so I thought we were leaving on Sunday. So I had this whole day of adventure planned on Saturday, and then I realized I got like a calendar notification, and I was like, oh my gosh, we leave on Saturday. So we don't have time to do all these things that I was saving for the weekend. So we figured out, well, we'll just try to fit in as much as we can after work on Friday, because we work East Coast hours, we're done at 1:30, and we're going to see what we can get done. And we did get it all done, but it was a circus act.
Yeah, so trying to cram all this in at 1:30 in the afternoon was a big feat, considering this was supposed to be an entire day. We get everything packed up, we rush out of the camper because we know we're starting to lose daylight. I think we had on tap, we want to pick up our national park pin because we're trying to get one for every place that we go to because we're making this really pretty pin board.
Yeah.
And then once we got our pin, we wanted to do...
Stout Memorial Grove and the Titans Grove.
Yes, so we wanted to do those. And then we also wanted to make it up to the natural bridges.
In Oregon.
In Oregon. We get in the truck, CeLynn's plugging in the directions. I'm about to put the truck in drive, and all I hear is, oh no! And she tells me that the road is closed to get to the trailhead. And
I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, it was open yesterday when I put directions in. I don't understand what's wrong with it. And then I was doing all this research, and I finally stumbled across on the National Park website that road was closed for grading. They were shutting it down just for like a few days, and it happened to be one of those days. Howland Hill Drive, which is this whole dirt road to get to all these groves.
we're trying to figure out what do we do. We're looking at the map, trying to see is there another trail that we could hike in. Could we access it from the other side of this river? So we go to get our pin. We talk to the ranger.
Yeah.
And she basically said, yeah, the stream that we were talking about crossing is a raging river. So then we found we could access a trailhead that started an additional 2 miles away. So mind you, we were planning on doing like these
Planning
two
and dressed for.
small hikes.
I'm wearing like cotton leggings and like a long sleeve. I didn't even bring a backpack. I just had a fanny pack in my camera.
Because they were supposed to be less than a mile each.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be less than 2 miles total.
It's supposed to be like, get out, do the loop, get back in.
So we ended up deciding to do that 2 mile hike in, which was going to end up being an 8 mile hike to get to both of them. Needless to say, we got the 2 miles in. We got to, what was the first one called?
We're just on the map, we're looking at it, and it's like Stout Memorial Grove is right there. And we are like right next to it on the map, but there's a river between us. Or like a creek, a stream, basically. And we're like,
yeah, it's
is there
probably
a bridge
like
or something?
mid-thigh deep to get through it. So we decided to cross that.
There is no bridge.
Yeah,
You
there's
just
no
have to
bridge.
Take your shoes off and get
bridge
across.
is the summer bridge when the river basically like
Dies down and
has a lot less water in it and you can walk along it. It just creates like this natural bridge. But
spring, not so much.
yeah, no, springtime, there's no bridge. You're just walking through the streams that flow into the river. So we get across. All of a sudden, we see this tiny little dog come running at us, super friendly thing,
It's
and we're
like
like,
a Frenchie.
how did that even get over here?
That
There's
didn't
no
cross
way
the
people
river."
crossed the stream. So we look up, and then it's this, little older couple come walking over. I was like, hey, by chance, how'd you guys get here? Did you just like park on this road that we thought was closed? And they're like, oh yeah, we parked at the parking lot like a couple 100 yards right there. And I was like, But we just did all this roundabout stuff, and we could have just looked and seen that it was open. We do our little hike there, and I was like, all right, timing wise, we're both already getting a little tired. I don't know if we can manage another 6 miles and then still get to the natural bridges. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna boogie back. I'm gonna run the 2 miles, get the truck, drive it around, pick up CeLynn, drive to the next place to cut out 5 miles.
Yeah.
So that's what we ended up doing. We get to Grove of the Titans, which was gorgeous too. They have this whole, like, would you call it boardwalk?
Yeah, it's like a metal boardwalk. It's
Or
like
walkway. I
grates.
think they called it a graded walkway.
Yeah.
So it kind of gets you elevated off of the forest floor so that it can all just naturally grow in. And it's just
cool.
this like little path that you can walk through these beautiful Titan trees. They're just absolutely massive. So we did that. And then luckily we had the truck, so we could just boogie on out of there.
And then we were starving, so we were like, wow, we don't even have dinner on us because we thought we'd be back like way sooner than this. On the way out of Howland Hill Drive, which is super narrow and windy.
Yes.
Patches of service. I was looking up like sub shops and stuff, and we found, I think it was Wild Pizza, something like that. It was a pizza shop that sold sandwiches. And so we placed that order online, picked that up when we got there, and then drove another like 20 minutes to the natural bridges.
Yes.
Sandwiches were great.
Yeah, so at the natural
Fantastic.
bridges, literally 20 feet from the parking lot, they have this
Overlook
this
deck thing.
wooded deck overlook that has a couple benches. So it was the perfect spot to sit there and eat a sandwich after all that stress.
But we got to see sunset there, which was really beautiful. Kind of in the middle of nowhere, and it's a drive to get there from wherever you're coming from typically. But I think it was worth it. It was really nice.
Definitely. All right, so after hearing about how we had a little bit of time and we only got to check out Jedediah Smith State Park and Prairie Creek State Park, if there's any other parks that you guys have seen before and you thought were spectacular and amazing, please let us know in the comments below so that when we make another trip out here at some point, we can check those out as well.
So that concludes our whole trip of California. The Redwoods was our last stop. We were there for a week and now off to Oregon. We're in Oregon now filming this, but we absolutely love California. So many unique sites and so many different climates and environments, and it's really incredible. But I'm sure we'll be back because there's always more to see. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week when we talk about Oregon.
Bye.